I never thought the woman I loved would hide such a devastating secret, a secret that destroyed everything. But what I didn't realize was that very secret and the lies that followed would launch me on a painful journey, forcing me to confront the darkness within myself, only to find the light of forgiveness and rebirth. Let me tell you about a night more than a decade ago, when everything was as beautiful as a country song played under a pale moon. I was standing at the local farmer's market in Nashville, helping my mom sell homemade biscuits, sweat trickling down my face under the streetlights. The sweltering heat of the city at night seeped into my skin, but inside, everything was as calm as the Cumberland River flowing through green fields. I, Charlie, a mechanic with grease-stained hands and an honest heart, never thought my life would one day be torn apart by a secret. Suddenly, a girl walked in wearing a vibrant red dress like a blazing fire, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, her eyes sparkling like precious gems under the streetlights. She asked to buy a serving of biscuits, and her smile made me forget how to answer, forget the world around me. "Careful, those biscuits are hot," I stammered, and she giggled, spilling a little gravy on her hand. That clumsy but endearing moment planted the seed for a love I believed was destiny. That was the first time I met Emily. If you're listening to this story, perhaps you've also felt your world crumble because of a lie, a secret buried for too long. Emily, with her innocent appearance and radiant smile, carried a past I could never have imagined. That secret not only destroyed our marriage, but also pushed me into a painful journey, forcing me to confront the dark corners of my own soul, things I had tried to bury beneath the facade of a perfect life. This is my story, a story of love, betrayal, and the long, arduous journey to find forgiveness, not just for others, but for myself. This is a story about learning to let go of the past to find a better future. A future built on truth, no matter how bitter that truth may be, and how you can find light even in the darkest moments. Join me as I rewind time back to the days when I thought I had everything, only to watch everything unravel bit by bit, and how I rose from those ashes stronger, truer than ever before. Our life in Nashville, Tennessee seemed like a perfect picture, a dream of simple love many yearned for. We dated, spent romantic evenings wandering around Centennial Park, under the shimmering streetlights, eating hot corn dogs and listening to music from buskers. The scent of corn, mustard, and relish mingled in the air, creating a distinctive flavor of love. I worked at an old auto repair shop, my hands always covered in grease, while Emily was an art teacher, always carrying a sketchbook, her eyes always dreamy as if holding an entire artistic world within them. She sketched me once when we sat by Percy Priest Lake, the fiery sunset painting the lake purple, and I knew I was in love. I loved the way she saw the world through an artist's lens, her gentleness, her intelligence, and even the fleeting mystery in her eyes. In 2014, I knelt and proposed to her right in front of the sacred Parthenon replica, under the fiery sunset fading in the Nashville sky. "I'll make you happy, Charlie," she said, her eyes glistening, and I believed her more than anything in this world. I believed that promise, believed in eternal love. In 2015, our wedding took place at the Christchurch Cathedral, the violin strains of the string quartet echoing softly, and my mom, a devout Christian, cried as she watched me walk down the aisle with Emily. She believed this was a blessing from God. After the wedding, we moved into a small, cozy house in a vibrant, artsy neighborhood filled with charming Victorian homes. Emily hung her paintings on the walls, transforming the small house into an inspiring space where each painting told a story. Our lives were simple, yet filled with love. I spent my days repairing cars, the steady clang of wrenches against metal echoing. She taught children to draw their dreams, the sound of laughter and paintbrushes blending in the air. And in the evenings, we cooked traditional pot roast together, listened to Johnny Cash playing from the old radio, and dreamt of one day having children running around the house. I thought I had everything, a simple but complete life without a ripple. But then, like a song gradually losing its rhythm, unusual signs began to appear, initially subtle, hard to notice low notes, then gradually becoming invisible cracks on the solid wall of happiness. Have you ever felt something was wrong? A chilling feeling, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. That feeling began to creep into me in 2022. Emily became distant. She often took calls and stepped outside to answer, saying they were colleagues asking about a school exhibition. Some nights she came home later than usual, her hair messy, her eyes tired, but with a fleeting look of bewilderment, saying she had to prepare lessons for the next day. "You're overthinking, Charlie." She'd laugh, her smile still beautiful, but her eyes no longer holding the same innocence, and I'd nod, trying to reassure myself, trying to believe her excuses, but my heart was full of doubt. Once I accidentally opened Emily's desk drawer to find a pen. It was a simple, innocent act, but she flinched, yelling, "Don't go through my stuff!" Her voice was filled with panic. Not typical anger. I profusely apologized, thinking I had been too nosy, had invaded her private space. But that panicked look didn't leave my mind. I started noticing small details: how quickly she locked her phone, how she always placed it face down when I was near, how she avoided talking about her past. Emily had always said she grew up in Knoxville, that her mother raised her alone, and she came to Nashville for college. I never doubted that story. Until one fateful day when an old forgotten item exposed everything, pulling me out of my own illusion. I had lived in a dream for too long. The old wooden box forgotten in the darkness of the garage didn't just hold a secret. It held the raw, cold truth, tearing apart the fabricated happiness I had meticulously built. The sound of the lock clicking open wasn't just the sound of a box opening. It was the sound of my heart shattering. Let me tell you about the moment everything collapsed, when I was pushed straight into the abyss of truth with no escape. It was April 2023. I was cleaning out the garage behind our house to turn it into a home auto shop. The smell of oil and dust lingered in the air. Beneath a pile of old forgotten junk, I found a small wooden box locked tight, covered in dust and cobwebs. My intuition told me this wasn't an ordinary box. It emanated a strange energy, both alluring and frightening. I called Emily, but she was at school, unable to answer. Curiosity mixed with an unsettling premonition urged me on. I used a screwdriver to pry open the lock. The metal creaked dryly in the silent garage, like the sound of Hell's Gate opening, like my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. Inside the box were a stack of yellowed letters tied with a faded ribbon, a few blurry photos of a growing girl, and a birth certificate. My heart pounded as if it wanted to leap out of my chest as I read the words on the birth certificate, each word like a needle piercing my eyes. Sophie Davis, mother, Emily Miller. Emily had a daughter, and she had never told me. A 16-year-old daughter. My throat tightened. The air in the garage felt thick, suffocating me. The whole world seemed to spin. I sat there on the cold garage floor amidst the smell of oil and dust, feeling suffocated, betrayed in the cruelest way. We had talked about having children, had envisioned a happy little family. Emily always said she wanted to start a family from scratch with me, wanted to have children with both. Our blood, wanted a new life with no baggage. So who was Sophie? Why had she hidden such a huge secret from me? I waited each minute, stretching into an eternity, each second like a knife cutting into my flesh, until that evening when Emily returned. She walked into the house still with her usual tired look, but the smile on her face vanished when she saw me standing there holding the birth certificate. I placed it on the table between us like an invisible, insurmountable wall. Emily, who is Sophie? I asked, my voice trembling hoarse, but I knew I already knew the answer. Her face went pale, not a drop of blood, her hands gripping the edge of the table until they were white. She tried to deny it, tried to make excuses with stuttering, incoherent words, but then tears flowed uncontrollably. Charlie, I'm sorry. I was going to tell you, but I was afraid you'd leave me. She confessed that Sophie was her daughter, born when she was 19, from a brief relationship with a man who had abandoned her. Emily had left Sophie to be raised by her mother in a small town near Knoxville, visiting her only a few times a year. I didn't know how to feel. On one hand, there was intense anger because she lied. On the other, profound pain because she had endured this secret alone for so many years. But the anger quickly overshadowed everything. Why didn't you trust me, Emily? I'm your husband. I could have accepted anything. I shouted the words, bursting from the depths of my pain, from utter disappointment. She sobbed, pleading for my understanding, saying she was afraid I would leave her if I knew the truth. That night I slept on the sofa, unable to look into her eyes, unable to breathe the same air. Our small house, once filled with laughter and love, was now cold and full of lies. I thought I understood her, thought we had nothing to hide. I was wrong, a fatal mistake. You think the story stops there? I thought so too. Thought I had hit rock bottom, that there was nothing left to lose. But then, just a week after the shock about Sophie, while I was still engulfed in the struggle between anger and sorrow, there was a knock at the door. A stranger dressed in a sharp suit stood there. He introduced himself as David, an attorney from Knoxville. His face was angular, his eyes sharp, and he looked directly at me with a serious expression. I need to talk to you about Sophie, he said, his tone firm, unwavering. My heart pounded again. Sophie again. Another secret. David entered the house, bringing with him a tense atmosphere, as if he were a messenger of fate. He wasn't the irresponsible man who had abandoned Emily as she had claimed. On the contrary, David revealed that he was Sophie's biological father, and he had never known about her existence until recently. Emily had left Knoxville when she was pregnant, cutting off all contact, not telling him anything about the child she was carrying. He explained that he had only recently discovered Sophie by chance through Emily's mother, Brenda. David said he had been searching for Emily, trying to contact her, but she always refused. He wanted to gain custody of his daughter, wanted to fulfill his responsibility as a father. Emily said she married you, but she didn't mention Sophie nor me. David said, his eyes filled with bitterness and disappointment, as if he too were a victim of deception. I was stunned. Another shock hit me, leaving me dizzy. Emily had not only hidden Sophie from me, but had also brazenly lied about the child's father. Why would she do that? When I confronted Emily, she admitted everything, her face ashen like a blank sheet of paper. Her voice was trembling, full of weakness and despair. I left David because he used to struggle with addiction, Charlie. I didn't want Sophie to grow up with someone like that, someone with a troubled past. I just wanted to protect her, to give her a better life, a complete family. She sobbed, pleading for my understanding, begging me not to leave her. But I couldn't trust her anymore. Every word she spoke was like a knife twisting in my gut, deepening the bleeding wound. The trust within me had shattered completely, with no piece left to mend. I felt like a puppet manipulated by layers of lies, turned into a pitiful fool. Anger erupted, consuming all other emotions, leaving only resentment and contempt. I couldn't bear it anymore. I told Emily I wanted a divorce. She wailed, begging me to give her a chance, but I shook my head. You had too many chances to tell the truth, I said, my voice cold, devoid of any affection. That night I slept on the sofa again, unable to look at her face. A face I once believed held no secrets, but now was just a curtain hiding horrific truths. Our small house, once filled with laughter and love, was now a desolate ruin, cold and full of deceit. I thought I understood her thought. We had nothing to hide. I was wrong, a fatal mistake. The days following the shock about David and Sophie were like an endless nightmare. I couldn't sleep. My dreams were haunted by images of the wooden box and the birth certificate. I couldn't eat. Food tasted like sand in my mouth. Every time I looked at Emily, I only saw the letters in the wooden box, saw David's face in my mind and the secrets she kept. I loved her. I still did, a fragmented love, but I couldn't live with someone I no longer trusted. The feeling of being deceived, disrespected, and made a fool of suffocated me like a heavy stone pressing on my chest. I told Emily again that I wanted a divorce. She sobbed uncontrollably, her heartbreaking cries tearing through the air in our home, begging me to reconsider, to give her another chance to fix things. But I shook my head, my heart as hard as stone, calloused from too many wounds. You had too many chances to tell the truth, I repeated, and this time my voice was no longer trembling, only absolute cold resolve. My family, especially my mom, was deeply shocked to hear the news. My mom, a devout Christian, knelt in prayer, tears in her eyes, begging God to bless our marriage. Charlie, marriage is a vow before God, she said, holding my hand tightly, her eyes filled with pain and despair. You must forgive. You must try to save it. But I couldn't. I felt like a fool, having believed in a love story that wasn't real, having given my whole heart to someone who only knew how to lie. I hired a lawyer to begin the divorce proceedings, even though my heart was still shattered into a million pieces, each fragment holding an unbearable pain. Meanwhile, David, Sophie's father, had begun his custody lawsuit. This dragged Emily into a costly and stressful legal battle. I heard she had to sell some of her beloved paintings, the artworks that were once her soul, to pay legal fees and perhaps to support Sophie. A small part of me felt pity for her, a fleeting weakness that pierced through my hardened shell, but mostly I just wanted to forget everything, to erase everything related to Emily from my life, as if she had never existed, as if the memories had never happened. I started turning to alcohol to numb the pain, to try and forget what had happened. The drunkenness temporarily masked the turmoil, but then upon waking, the pain multiplied exponentially. My work at the garage was also severely affected. I became irritable, unfocused, and gradually lost some regular customers. The repair shop, once my passion, now became a gloomy, cold place. Some nights I sat alone in the darkness of the house, the tequila bottle slowly emptying, wondering if I was wrong for not forgiving Emily, if I was too cruel. But then I'd remember the look in her eyes when she lied, remember David's face, and my doubts would flare up again, burning away any thought of forgiveness. I didn't know that something else, something even more bitter, was waiting to expose another aspect of betrayal, an aspect I had never dared to imagine, and it would push me to the very bottom of despair. Have you ever thought that one secret could lead to another, larger one, stacking up to form a giant mountain of lies capable of burying everything you once believed in? I didn't believe it until Emily's mother, Brenda, sought me out. Our divorce was underway, and I was drowning in alcohol and despair, trying to cling to anything that could help me get through it. One rainy afternoon, as I sat numbly in the garage beside broken-down cars that mirrored my own life, Brenda suddenly appeared. Her face was gaunt, her eyes red as if she had been crying a lot, holding a profound sadness. She carried an old, crumpled letter kept in a faded envelope. "Charlie, I don't want her to hurt you anymore. I can't bear to see you in such pain. But you need to know the truth. This is the last thing I can do for you to ease my conscience," she said, her voice sorrowful and heavy, as if carrying a 1,000-pound burden. The letter was from a man named Mark, written 3 years ago. Meaning when Emily and I had been married for a few years that I thought I was living in complete happiness building a future. In the letter, Mark said he loved Emily, deeply wanted her to leave me to be with him, to build a new life, a future I never knew existed. Brenda revealed that Emily had had an affair with Mark, a colleague at school, but it had ended before I discovered the secret about Sophie. I thought she had changed, had ended everything, but then I found this letter in her belongings. Brenda said, her voice trembling as if she herself couldn't believe her daughter, as if she were witnessing a painful drama unfold. This news was like a punch to my face, stronger than any before, leaving me stunned and breathless. Emily had not only hidden Sophie and David from me, but had also betrayed me within our very marriage. All the happy moments I had once believed were real, once cherished, now became false dramas, a cleverly staged performance. I felt like a fool, a pathetic clown being led by the nose, having loved someone who never truly valued me, who never truly belonged to me. I immediately called Emily, shouting into the phone, "How many more things are you hiding from me? Emily, how many more secrets do you have? Who are you really?" My voice was hoarse with anger and pain. She cried, saying she had ended things with Mark a long time ago, that it was just a mistake in a moment of weakness, a brief deviation. But I didn't want to hear it. I hung up, my heart filled with hatred, a blazing inferno of resentment consuming everything that remained. The hurt had exceeded its limits. I had lost everything: my wife, my trust, and a part of myself. I didn't know where I was going, only that I was sinking into a bottomless abyss. In those months of deep suffering, I made a mistake. I asked myself, am I any different from Emily? But that moment of weakness, coupled with an unexpected confrontation, finally unveiled the ultimate truth. A bitter truth about myself and the root of all tragedy, giving me the key to understanding. Let me confess something I've never told anyone, a secret I've tried to bury in the darkest corners of my soul. In those painful months immersed in Emily's betrayal, I wasn't a perfect angel either. The anger, the pain, and the feeling of abandonment gnawed at me daily, transforming me into a different person. One night, drunk at a bar, my judgment clouded by alcohol and pain, I texted an old friend, Jessica, who used to work at the garage with me. She was a kind girl, always offering sincere advice and empathy. We met at a bar in downtown Nashville, loud country music and cigarette smoke filling the air. I didn't love her, but I needed someone to forget the pain, to fill the emptiness in my heart, to feel like I wasn't completely alone. It only happened once, a moment of weakness and recklessness, but afterward I felt terrible guilt, a surge of self-loathing. I asked myself, am I any different from Emily? Perhaps I too had betrayed the very values I once believed in, betrayed my own self. In that moment, I realized I could no longer blame others entirely. I realized that I wasn't just angry at Emily, but also at myself for letting pain and weakness control me. I decided to stop, not to let myself fall deeper into the quicksand of degradation. I threw away the tequila bottle, gave up the pointless drinking, and joined a divorce support group where I began to share my story, began my journey of healing and self-acceptance. With the raw truths exposed, I knew I couldn't keep sinking in the darkness. This was when I began my healing journey, step by step, finding peace and rebuilding my life from the rubble, transforming scars into strength. The divorce process was long and stressful, like an endless war. Emily wanted to keep the house in Franklin, our former home, but I wouldn't budge. We argued fiercely over our savings, our belongings, even the dining table I bought her for our first anniversary. Every time I met Emily at the lawyer's office, I just wanted to scream, "Why did you do this to me? Why did you destroy everything we had?" But then I held back, realizing it would only cause me more pain. Meanwhile, David, Sophie's father, continued his custody lawsuit, dragging Emily into a costly and stressful legal battle, draining both her money and spirit. I heard she had to sell some of her beloved paintings, the artworks that were once her soul, to pay legal fees and perhaps to support Sophie. A small part of me felt pity for her, a fleeting weakness that pierced through my hardened shell, but mostly I just wanted to forget everything, to erase everything related to Emily from my life, as if she had never existed, as if the memories had never happened. After the divorce was finalized in June 2024, I moved into a smaller but cozier apartment, also near Centennial Park, where I could start anew. I no longer wanted to live in the old house where every corner reminded me of lies and betrayal, memories that were now just haunting shadows. I opened my own auto repair shop, naming it Charlie's Fix-It Shop. The work wasn't easy. I faced many challenges, but I rediscovered joy in repairing old cars, making them run smoothly like new. The roar of engines, the scent of oil and gasoline mingling, became a soothing sound for my soul, helping me focus on the present. I found peace in my work, in my greasy but passionate hands, in turning broken things into useful ones. The divorce support group became my second family. I met people with stories similar to mine, people who had experienced similar pain and hurt. We shared, listened, and supported each other. They helped me see that I wasn't alone, that my pain was real, but I could overcome it. I learned to share the burden, learned to accept help, and most importantly, learned to forgive myself for past mistakes, for letting pain control me. One day I decided to meet Emily one last time. She was struggling with David's lawsuit, looking more worn out than ever, her eyes sunken from lack of sleep, and worry, her face showing clear signs of exhaustion. I handed her the wooden box, the thing that had revealed everything, saying I didn't want to keep it anymore, didn't want to carry any burden from the past. "Emily, I forgive you," I said, my voice warm and gentle, devoid of any anger, only tiredness and a desire for liberation. "But I have to live for myself. I have to let go. I'm not angry at you anymore. I just want you to know that I understand. And I want to be free." She sobbed, tears streaming down her cheeks, but I knew I had done the right thing. I wasn't angry at her anymore. I just wanted to let go so both of us could move forward on our own paths. I also visited Sophie once with Brenda's permission. She was now 17 with big round eyes exactly like Emily's, and she was learning to draw like her mother. I didn't tell her who I was, only that I was an old friend of her mother's. Looking at Sophie, I suddenly understood why Emily had hidden her in the past, not entirely out of shame, but perhaps in some way she wanted to protect her from her own mistakes, from the complications she had created. I left my heart much lighter. A burden had been lifted, and I felt strangely at peace, a peace I had never experienced in all those years. After all the storms, the shocks, and the confessions, today's Charlie is no longer the Charlie of yesterday. I've learned to turn scars into strength, pain into motivation. Now I confidently walk my own path with a healed heart and a reborn spirit. Want to know where I am now? I'm living a new life, a truer life than ever before, free from secrets or lies. My garage. Charlie's Fix-It Shop has regular customers, and I just finished repairing a vintage sky blue Ford pickup truck for an old man in Franklin. His hearty laugh when the truck started smoothly running like new is my greatest reward, a simple but priceless joy. I've started learning to paint a way to connect with what Emily once taught me, to find peace and express my emotions through each brushstroke, each shade of color. My paintings aren't beautiful. They can't compare to Emily's, but they are how I heal unspoken stories. I hung a painting in the garage, an image of a dirt road leading to Percy Priest Lake under a radiant sunset, as a reminder that I can still dream, that life still holds bright paths ahead, waiting for me to explore. My YouTube channel, Charlie's Garage and Life, has become a place where I share not just car repair tips, stories about the classic cars I've revived, but also my journey of overcoming pain and finding myself again. The channel has attracted tens of thousands of subscribers, not because I'm famous or special, but because the stories I tell have touched their hearts, giving them hope and empathy. Every comment from viewers, like "Thanks for giving me hope" or "Your story helped me get through my own pain," is an invaluable gift, a motivation for me to keep sharing and living a full, authentic life. I feel like I'm creating some value for others, a sense of peace that money can't buy. I no longer keep any mementos from my old marriage or from the relationships that betrayed me. All I keep is an old photo album with family pictures, childhood moments, and a playlist of melancholic country music reminding me of days gone by, lessons learned, scars healed, and the path I've walked. Every time I walk through the vibrant streets of Nashville, hearing country music from a bar somewhere, I smile knowing I've found my true home, not in a woman, not in a specific city, but in my own heart, in the peace and self-acceptance. I have reunited with Charlie, a more complete, stronger, and more peaceful Charlie, a Charlie who has learned to love himself with all his scars and experiences. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll fall in love again, maybe not. The road ahead still holds many surprises. But I know one thing for sure. This Charlie, the one telling you this story, has learned to love himself, learned to accept all his flaws, learned to live authentically, and learned to turn pain into strength, the past into a lesson. And that's enough. This journey has taught me that happiness is not a destination, but the journey of finding and accepting yourself with all its ups and downs, its sorrows, and its unexpected joys. As we say in the South, keep on keeping on. I will always keep on keeping on with an open heart and a healed soul. Charlie's journey. A path filled with tears, unexpected twists, and ultimately liberation is a profound reminder that truth, no matter how painful, is the only path to true healing and peace. Sometimes a secret being revealed, no matter how agonizing, is life's way of giving us an opportunity to confront the past, accept it, and move forward, becoming a stronger version of ourselves. If you're feeling stuck in secrets, lies, or you're looking for a way out of your own pain, I hope this story touches your heart. Remember, you deserve a life built on truth and courage. You deserve true peace, a peace that comes from facing everything and accepting your true self. The healing path can be long and arduous, but it is entirely worth it because in the end, you will find yourself. If this story has brought up any thoughts or feelings for you, or if you have similar experiences, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below. Every share from you is an act of empathy, helping us feel less alone on this journey on the path to finding happiness and truth. Don't forget to like this story to show your support. Share it with anyone you think might need to hear this message. Subscribe to Charlie's Garage and Life to not miss future profound stories and turn on notifications to get the latest videos from me. Thank you for listening. See you in the next videos.